ISIS Audiobooks presents an unabridged recording of Just for the Summer, written by Judy Astley, read by Rachel Atkins. Chapter 1. Miranda, aged 16 and never been more than kissed, was getting pregnant on the beach. It was what her stepfather, an art lecturer, would have called a cross-cultural encounter. Her partner was a 19-year-old fisherman, son of her mother's cleaning lady, whereas Miranda was the middle-class daughter of affluent and liberal 1970s parents who enjoyed the guilt of owning 2 homes. If this couple on the beach had been competing application forms for a dating agency, all that could have been found that they had in common was their current and momentary lust. Miranda was celebrating the end of her GCSEs. Somehow she felt she was adding to her list of life's qualifications. You didn't, at her school, go into the 6th form with your virginity. She had certificates for a wide range of achievements already, in common with others of her class: grade 5 piano, senior grade ballet, gymkhana rosettes. She'd been collecting these tokens of tribal membership since the age of 3, when joining the Penguin Club at Putney Pool. She'd been given a badge for ducking her head under the water. Of course, you didn't get a certificate for having sex, but Miranda felt she would be quite certain whether she'd passed or failed. Doing it with Steve had been quite irresistible. A secretive person, Miranda was glad she hadn't chosen someone from the party circuit at home, someone who might discuss it with their friends, or worse still, expect her to do it again sometime. She quite liked it, but then she quite liked maths. She certainly didn't expect to have to repeat her maths exam. This time next year, she thought, as she lay in the sand shielding her eyes from the sun, she'll probably be taking her driving test. While Miranda was crossing off another item on life's shopping list, Steve, a less calculating soul, was simply celebrating having an afternoon off on a hot day. Later, the 2 of them would sail away out beyond the harbour to collect his lobster pots, and that night Miranda would confide to the diary she kept under the mattress and thought nobody read that it had been the most romantic experience anyone anywhere could ever have had, although not one to be devalued by repetition. In a few weeks' time, when Miranda had learned that familiarity breeds babies and that, yes, all those talks at school on contraception, AIDS and abortion did actually apply to her as well, she would think of both fishing trips and sex as messy, smelly pastimes best left to the grown-ups. Miranda's mother, Clare, was also celebrating. In her tiny garden beside the creek in one of the most photographed villages in England, she dozed on a sun lounger beneath a pear tree, drinking her way through a jug of Pimm's, the Wimbledon commentary murmuring on her radio. Although concerned at the depletion of the ozone layer, Clare remained unconvinced that milk-white thighs would ever be a hot fashion item in any summer, and pulled off her dress, flinging it down in a careless heap on the grass. She pulled the straps of her swimsuit down as far as was decent, and wished the cottage was not so overlooked from both the opposite bank of the creek and from the nearby wooden footbridge. Clare was celebrating all the things she didn't have to do. Collect children from school, cook dinner, wear tights, listen to Jack complaining about another day of infighting among the Polytechnic staff, or telling her she was drinking too much. This 3-day break was supposed to enable Miranda to wind down after her exams. Clare needed to wind down too. She felt she'd just taken all 9 subjects herself, and in a sense she had. When Miranda had gone palely to school on exam days, Clare had willed her own brain along into the school hall with her. She had spent the days padding nervously round the house, doing routine, thought-freeing things like ironing and floor washing, so she could keep an eye on the clock and think, now she'll be just starting French, now she'll be halfway through, just going into lunch. Clare had lurked in the hallway when Miranda was due home, ready with something to eat, available to hear how dreadfully or brilliantly she felt she had done, accommodating herself to whatever mood Miranda had brought home with her. "Why don't you just let her get on with it herself?" Jack had asked petulantly as Clare had made laborious notes about the role of the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, and had sat up half the night trying to recall the technique for dealing with quadratic equations. "But I'm her mother," Clare had retorted. "That's what I'm here for." Jack had no reply to that one, for he...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?